What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com. Rolling on the week. Weekend in sight. It's late Friday afternoon. The Packers have announced several dates for the OTAs and minicamps, which will be available to the public. And most importantly, I believe for most Packer fans who design their summer vacations and all around the opening of Packers training camp, we now have an official date. The players will be reporting on the 25th. First practice will be the 26th. An important reminder for anyone hoping to catch the guys in padded work: make sure you do not arrive for the first 2 days because of the collective bargaining agreement. Pads are not allowed to be worn until the third day of practice. But there you have it. The opening day is upon us, at least the date. Make sure you check PackersNews.com for all the latest on open OTA dates, minicamp dates, etc. Fans are allowed in one session basically per week during OTAs and minicamp. What's up, everybody? Checking in on a late Friday. It's Friday afternoon, man, and you're here to talk some Packers. I love it. Happy Friday from New Mexico. What's up, man? Hey, Mike. Thanks for joining us. Jeff, hello. That's right, Ward. Actually, it's my living room. Jeremy Macklin. I'd be very surprised, Tommy. I know it would appear that they have a pressing need opposite Devontae Adams, but I believe they will allow Geronimo Allison and the young receivers behind him to vie for that spot. Joseph, they have all but three. All their late picks are signed. The first three draft choices have not been signed as of yet. I would suspect that all gets done within the next week prior to the first OTAs on the 21st. What are the Packers' chances of winning the division? Pretty good, I would say. I think it's pretty clear that Minnesota will be their toughest test. I would suspect, all things being equal, thinking that both teams stay relatively healthy, I would expect them to split their series home and away. Then it's all about what the two teams do outside of those two games. Antonio Gates for a veteran receiver / tight end presence. I doubt they signed any more veteran tight ends. They've already got two on the roster. Obviously, Jimmy Graham definitely trending much more towards a wide receiver position. At least that's how he's been used so far in his NFL career. Not much of a blocker. You're not going to use him in line a whole lot. But with those two, with Graham and Kendricks already on the roster, I would be surprised if they went and got a guy like Antonio Gates, who isn't going to be able to give you much outside of whatever he can do in the passing game. He's slowed down significantly. He's not going to give you anything on special teams, and he's not much of a blocker at this point. So you're really just taking up a roster spot to give you a few catches, maybe a few routes a game, and I just don't see them going there. Will the defense ever be better than the offense? That's a really good question, David. I tend to doubt it as long as Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers are in town. Now, that said, I think the defense will be significantly improved. And I know Mike McCarthy said at the end of the season, the quote was, "The defense has to be better than the offense. That has to happen." That is a direct quote from McCarthy. Now, I'm sure some of that is born out of frustration from having dragged along a defense for any number of years, although he can really look in the mirror for that one, seeing as he waited so long to fire his defensive coordinator. But I just think Aaron Rodgers is so good, and the offense is so prolific, that might be asking a bit much. But heck, if they can just get into the top 10 statistically, they'll be a force to be reckoned with overall as a team. Other than defensive coordinator, what's been the most important pickup this offseason? That's a good question. I guess, yeah, you look instantly at the players that they've picked up. I would probably say Tramon Williams, just because of the level he played at last year, coupled with his ability to be an example for a lot of these young corners that they've drafted, along with his ability to help teach Mike Pettine's system. That's a pretty important pickup. And, that's not to diminish the importance Jimmy Graham will have on the offense, or say, Joe Philbin coming back and his effect on Mike McCarthy. I think those are all important, but I think Tramon Williams probably will have the most widespread influence on the roster and the defense in particular. But did he mean the Packers offense or the other teams? Kevin, what's funny is we had that debate in the newsroom, and I asked Mike at the Combine specifically, and he did mean the Packers defense needed to be better than the Packers offense. But it's funny that you asked that because we had the same argument in the newsroom. Is Joe Witt still high on Herb Waters? Scott, we'll find out. Obviously he talked him up big time a couple years ago prior to Herb getting injured. And I'm anxious to see Herb on the field. We've heard a lot, about his ability in coverage. We'll see. We'll see what he looks like going up against NFL wide receivers. What if all three rookie receivers are starters? That'll be hard, Ward. I don't see which one of them would project inside the slot. There's a lot of big bodies there. Now, not to say it couldn't happen, but it would be absolutely shocking if all three of them picked up the offense and basically muscled out Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb. How different would the team look if they had landed Fuller? That's a good question. I tend to think they still would have brought back Williams. I think maybe Devon House isn't there, and maybe they don't target a corner in the first round, although anything's possible. It depends on how the grades went and how the board fell. I doubt Josh Jackson is on the team, but those are all hypotheticals. Does Gilbert end the year with more sacks than Clay? It's a good question, Seth. I tend to doubt it, but you never know. I mean, the upside is there. The athleticism is there. There's no doubt. Needs the opportunities. If he can get on the field, he's got a chance. Any thoughts on the linebacking crew? I'm interested to see how they mix and match them, and say, Gilbert, Burks, some of these new young guys, what kind of contributions they get from them. I think Martinez, we've talked about a lot here. His next big step he needs to make is finishing turnover plays. He's had his hand on a lot of footballs last year where he didn't finish. And if he starts finishing on some of those interceptions and creating some turnovers, then he'll definitely start, getting his name mentioned with some of the upper echelon linebackers in the NFL. Is Alexander a better pickup than Fuller? I think so. I think Alexander has got all the talent in the world, and I think he helps them inside, which is where I think they need the most help. I think Fuller's a good corner. I think he's had his issues. There's no doubt about it. You look at his time in Chicago, he's been really up and down. Don't have to look any further, actually, than last season. Randall Cobb absolutely torched him repeatedly. And, in fact, he's had trouble with the Packers in general. But, he's still, like I said, he's a talented corner. There's no doubt. His rookie year and then last year were his best years. But I think Alexander's upside is much higher. Happy birthday, Michael. Thanks for joining us on your birthday. Why have the Packers struggled to get 12-win seasons in the Rodgers era when the Pats with Brady? Well, first of all, you're comparing the Pats and Brady. I just tune out because it's like, yes, they have the greatest modern era coach and a guy who's in conversation to be the greatest coach ever. That ends the discussion right there. You can't compare him. I mean, there are 31 other teams that would love to have Bill Belichick as their head coach. The Packers do not have Belichick. They have Mike McCarthy. Clearly not as good a coach as Belichick is. Still one of the better coaches in the league. Why have they struggled to get 12 wins? A lot of times it's been because of their defense. They've clearly put up the points throughout the years to match any team in the league. I do think every year, and we joke about this every time the schedule comes out, but I think every year they have a loss, an inexplicable loss that they have no business having on their resume. That kind of thing never happens in New England because Belichick is such a good coach. But you never get through a season in Green Bay, seemingly, where they don't have a loss, where you're just scratching your head and thinking, how on earth did they lose that game? Every year. The one that always stands out to me in recent memory is that Colts game a couple years ago at home. That's a game they had no business losing, and they lost it. They have one of those. They have a stinker like that every year, that you just don't really see coming, and it kind of leaves you scratching your head. Patriots coach overrated. Gonna have to disagree with your police work there, Kay. Would Kaiser have been consulted about St. Brown? No. I have little doubt he was excited to have him on board, but they're not going to talk to him about draft picks. What's up, Randy? Thanks for joining us. Do you think that Rodgers comes out of this the richest football player? Yes, by a wide margin. They signed their first 3 draft picks yet? No, not yet, but they've got a week before the start of OTAs. I wouldn't sweat it. I suspect that all gets done next week. Jennifer, hello. Thanks for joining us. Hello from South Bend, Indiana. What's up, Kyle? Thanks for joining us, man. See, okay, I'll take a couple more here, folks. I know it's Friday. I know people got things to do. They got the weekend to hit up. You were at that game, Victor. I hear you, man. That Colts game was brutal. Bakhtiari, Taylor, Lindsley, McCray, Murphy, starting line. Seth, yeah, I think you've hit it, except, the one big question mark, I think, is Murphy for week 1. Now, obviously, they're banking on Bulaga being back at some point. We've talked about it a lot here. I would be absolutely shocked if he's ready for week 1. Does that put Murphy out there? It's possible. Yeah, it's a big ask. The guy actually played a little better than I thought going back and rewatching his game this week. But he really struggles in obvious passing situations. That said, can they win with him at right tackle? Yeah, they can. They did it last year, twice. Well, once at right tackle and once at left tackle. But yeah, if that's the way they have to go, that's who they're going to roll out there. At the 18th pick, would you have taken Alexander over Derwin James or Tremaine Edmonds? No, I wouldn't have. I would have taken. I was kind of shocked they didn't take Edmonds when they were there at 14. But they wanted that first-round pick. Defensive turnaround, something like the Saints last year. What's funny is that Gutekunst has mentioned that a couple times, unprompted, regarding, the turnaround the Saints had on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, a lot of that was due to their draft, and I'm sure he's hoping that he has similar effect with his draft choices. And they don't even need, honestly, they don't need a turnaround even that dramatic, although obviously the Packers would welcome it. But they just, they just need to be able to line up down after down, have 11 players on the field, get off the field on 3rd down on occasion. If they can just do that, they're already heading in the right direction. When is the trade for TJ Watt for Brett Hundley going to happen? When you wake up from your dream? What's the delay on signing the other 3 picks? There's no urgency to do so yet. There's Andrew Brandt always says, deadline spur action. There's no deadline here. Like I said, they've got a week. And since they're slotted deals, there's not much wiggle room that these guys have. I'm sure there'll be some nitpicking over bonus structure and things like that. But for the most part, it'll get done. What beer is on the menu tonight? Newcastle Brown Ale. Is it likely Scott will be the holder? Very much so. They cited his holding ability after they drafted him. Slot wide receivers to back up Cobb. Good question, Jarvis. I tend to think Montgomery will get a lot of that work. And I don't doubt, all of those rookie guys and even the younger guys like Geronimo Allison, Michael Clark, and D'Angelo Yancey. Every wide receiver is cross-trained at all 3 spots. And those guys will all have to know the slot. It'll be a question of who shows the most promise and who shows the most reliability. Has Capers found a new NFL team? No, not that I know of. Mike must have liked the new punter, no doubt, since they cut the other guy. Actually, Justin Vogel requested his release and the Packers granted it. Do you think Dez would be a good pickup to give veteran experience for the tall receivers? Jeff, I don't think it's the world's craziest idea. I tend to think they'll wait and see what they have first, but I wouldn't be surprised if, say, they get to OTAs, minicamp, etc., and if Dez is still out there and they think, these guys are a little bit further away than we thought, or maybe they're a little bit raw and they want a little veteran insurance, it wouldn't be crazy for them to make that call. Alan, now that's not nice. All right, now we've got the no Dez chorus going on. I understand, people. I understand he's a polarizing figure, but he would help the Packers. Wasn't Jennings pretty lethal from the slot in the Super Bowl? He absolutely was. He played all 3 positions. And it's funny because I remember when he came in his rookie year, he was one of the first guys who really came in and just solidified everything. He started week 1, which was a rare thing. for a rookie in Mike McCarthy's offense to play all three positions and to start from day one. You know, people forget because of all the drama after Jennings left, but he was an outstanding player, and he was something special when he got drafted. Do you think Jerron Allison will be a starter this year? I think he'll have the inside track. Now, a lot's going to be dependent on what happens in training camp, in preseason, but I think the job is his to lose. Thanks, Alan. It's very nice of you to say. Dez versus Alexander would be fun to watch in practice, no doubt. That'd be like Sam Shields versus Dez back in the day. All right, everybody, I'm going to jump. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to your question, but there's plenty of information for you at packersnews.com. Make sure you check that out. Barring any breaking news, I'll be back on Monday. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great weekend.